Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 91, Gold Digger, Part 2. Edward POV. As Claire walked into the room, she saw a baffling sight of her husband covered with multicolored underwear. She noticed I was smirking as I watched the whole thing, and inwardly painted me as a culprit for this. Ed. I'll settle this with you later, Claire said sternly. I tilted my head puzzledly, waiting for an explanation, but Claire already had turned to Gloria. I don't know what my husband is saying to you, or why he's covered in your underwear. Obviously, I'm trying to seduce him for his money, Gloria interjected before Claire could finish. That's what I do, right? Hey Gloria. Just a reminder. I'm also quite rich now, I chimed in while watching the show in amusement. Gloria almost broke her composure and laughed. Both Claire and Gloria glared at me before turning to each other. I took the chance to whisper to Phil, hey, we should let them settle this by themselves. Yes, I agree, Phil said before he stood up and shook off the underwear stuck on his body. A white, frilly underwear was stuck at his cargo short pocket, but he didn't notice it. Claire sat at the place Phil sat before and she saw the stuck underwear. She tried to tell him, however, Phil stopped her and said with a hint of smugness, Ed, and I shouldn't be here. It should be you guys, talking about it, honey, you're welcome. Claire was in disbelief at Phil's words, but her husband had already walked out of the room. I turned to Gloria and said, Hasla Sudar, make her sweat. Gloria nodded and said, low hair, I will. WWH, what are you guys talking about? Claire said with a tinge of fear. I smiled at her and said cheerily, Kalo disfruts. Enjoy it. I closed the door as I left the room and returned to the living room, leaving Claire's mouth agape and her suspicious about the whole thing. I already knew how the conversation inside the room would go, and they needed privacy for them to open up with each other. My presence there was no longer necessary, though I felt a bit discontented when I had to leave. I separated from Phil, who was going to the kitchen after going downstairs. I heard Haley exclaim, EWW, why are you such a pervert, as she saw her dad with Gloria's underwear, and laughed hard as I walked to the pool area. Taylor and Selena were dunking their bare legs in the heated pool water after taking off their shoes and were drinking wine disguised as sparkling water. Hey! Pepper and Harvey were here. They didn't stay though, as they had to go to Hollywood tonight to sign a few deals, Taylor explained. Oh. Did they eat? I asked as I feel a bit worried for those overworked people. The company needed to expand, urgently. Yeah, they ate, Taylor said while nodding slightly and then stood up to face me. I was also thinking of going now. Ah, but I understand, I said with a sly smirk as I gazed in her eyes. Her cheek flushed a bit and she tucked her hair behind her ear as she whispered seductively, biting her lower lip, you know. My hotel is nearby. Skank, Selena muttered to herself. Shut up, Taylor said and hit Selena's shoulder in embarrassment. I'm only saying my hotel is nearby. I didn't invite him to my room. She faced me again and said, but, you're basically homeless tonight, right? If you want to check into a hotel, you could stay in the same one I am at. Ah, maybe. I'll talk to my dad first, I said. She suddenly leaned closer and grabbed my hand. I could sense she sneaked something to my palm as she did so. She said seductively, and if you're close, who knows what will happen. I smiled and said, yeah. Who knows, maybe Selena will have to be kicked out of your room tonight. Selena rolled her eyes and stood up next to Taylor. Her body swayed a little as she did. I looked concerned at her. Are you okay? Yeah. My legs get weak sometimes. Selena said before turning to Taylor, I'm only saying this once. No matter what happens, I won't get out of the room. Pervert. Taylor said mischievously, making Selena blush. I'm not hinting at that. Taylor licked her lips as her eyes darted between Selena and I. Maybe, it won't actually be bad if you're there. Taylor dared to suggest so and didn't fear Selena's snatching her potential lover away was because of the fact that Selena's popularity was still low, and she couldn't reach Taylor in mind's level yet. Selena was stunned and gulped her saliva while I coughed lightly and said, we don't know if I will stay there yet. Wait. Ed. Before we go, are you planning on playing anything tonight? Selena asked. Taylor's eyes lit up and she said, yeah Ed, play something. There's no instrument here. And I'm tired from all the cooking. I made some excuses. Selena suddenly said, well. Too bad. If you played, maybe I won't mind you pocketing the hotel room key Taylor just gave you. Taylor coughed a few times and I just smiled softly at Selena. No reaction? Damn. You're tough. Selena said after studying my face. I'm only holding myself back. I'm excited inside. I said using a monotone, making Selena gritted her teeth in annoyance. So I'm not sexy enough? Is that it? She said suddenly while pushing her index finger at my chest. I raised one of my brow and grabbed her finger before pulling her closer to me. She widened her eyes as I leaned forward and whispered to her ear, although I like hot-headed Latinas, I still have a sense of self-control. I hope you understand that. But if you really want me to stop by, I don't have any objections to that. Her ears felt hot as blood rushed to her face. She became embarrassed and walked away quickly after grabbing her shoes. Taylor licked her lips as she said, I'll be waiting. Taylor. Come on. Selena called from afar. Coming. Taylor shouted before leaning in and giving me a kiss on both sides of my cheek. Don't be too sad, okay? If you want any consolation, just hit me up. I'll be with you, all night long. She ended her sentence with a seductive whisper in my ear. Ah, and here I thought you really cared about my feelings. I said with a faux sadness. She giggled and joked, nah. You're only a piece of meat for me to ride on. Then you have to put in the grind for me to spread my legs. I added, making her laugh hard and slap my chest unconsciously. We got into the wrong roles. Taylor accidentally snorted as she laughed, got embarrassed, and ran to follow Selena before I could say anything. General POV. In Gloria's room, Claire tried hard to string her words as she faced the victim of her gossipy behavior. I don't know what to say except that I am really, really sorry, Claire said in a begging tone. Gloria sighed and sat next to her before asking, just tell me one thing. How do you really feel that I'm with your father? Honestly, at first, it was hard. You don't expect to wake up one morning with a new mom who looks like she fell off a mud flap. But I'm getting used to it. The important thing is you make him happy, which you do, in so many ways. Claire turned to the underwear scattered on the bed and mumbled, so many colors. I don't know if I can forgive you, Gloria said while looking downcast. Claire grabbed Gloria's arm and begged, just tell me what I can do to make things right. Gloria thought about it and said, there's two. You can tell me a secret of yours that will make you feel as embarrassed as I am if you're the one in my place at dinner today. Claire was taken aback and asked, and the second option? Go jump in the pool. Claire widened her eyes and said, now? Yes. Go jump in the pool, with your clothes on. Then, I'll know that you're really sorry. Claire paused to think for a while and suddenly stood up, okay. She walked bravely and got out of the room while Gloria excitedly followed her from behind. As the wives had come out of the room, the people in the living room exclaimed, "OHOIY. You guys work it out?" Phil asked. Not yet. Gloria wants me to jump in the pool, Claire said casually before walking out the house. What? Phil and the others were stunned at the situation and all of the family and guests followed Claire and Gloria to the pool. Well, all except Jacob, who still fainted on the couch.
This is so awesome! Luke exclaimed. I know. Mom does not look good wet. Haley added. Gloria, is this really necessary? Jay asked exasperatingly. Claire hurriedly said, Dad, it's fine. If I need to jump in this water to prove to Gloria how sorry I am, I will do it, it's fine.
I bet she will chicken out before she jumps in,
Edward said to Abby. I'll take that bet, Abby said, and they did a gentleman's shake on it. Only a second afterward, she lost. You're seriously not gonna stop me? Claire said agitatedly as she turned to Gloria. Why would I do that? Gloria replied, full of smugness. Claire tried to reason. Because I am standing here.
I'm showing you my willingness to dash. She stopped as she saw Gloria shook her head while smiling, and gave up trying to get out of it. Without saying anything, Claire jumped into the pool. Yee! The group cheered as Claire splashed around in the water. Are you happy? Claire asked. Yes. I forgive you, Gloria said while laughing. Then give me your hand, Claire said as she reached out her hand to Gloria. That's the oldest trick in the book. She's gonna pull you in there, Jay said. Gloria retracted her hand, but Jay added, and that's my job. He pushed Gloria in, making her shout as she fell in the water. Jay. Splash asterisk. Everyone laughed again, and then Phil decided to speak up. This is funny, but this is also a teaching moment. Jay was annoyed and he pushed Phil into the water too. Next, Luke and Manny tackled Jay into the water, Mitchell grabbed Alex and jumped into the water, and Cam jumped, cannonball style, into the pool. Haley was laughing at the side before Ed decided to push her in too. Of course, he took her phone out of her hand before he did so. Family should stick together, Ed said, looking like a menace outside the pool. Smile. Ed opened Haley's phone camera and took a picture of the family inside the pool. The guests laughed at the family, but no one ridiculed them for the evening. All except for Ed. As Ed laughed at the family, Gloria whispered something to Claire. He advised what? Claire exclaimed in anger as she knew Ed was the culprit who convinced Gloria to demand a secret from her. Phil. Luke. Throw Ed inside, Claire ordered. What? No. This is a new shirt. Ed tried to reason with them, but Phil and Luke's excitement was at the peak. They caught him and dragged him into the water with them. You deserve this, Ed, Claire said while laughing at Ed's misery. Edward POV. I rubbed my wet hair with a dry towel as I sat near the pool area. Haley walked next to me wearing a towel robe after taking off all of her clothes. Desiree, Abby, Jacob and my dad had already left, and Gloria offered me a place to stay in Manny's room tonight if I wanted, or just pick out one of the guest rooms. However, I had something else planned, so I rejected her and decided to check into a hotel instead. Do you want me to put your clothes in the dryer? Haley asked. Sure. That'll be great, I said as I began to take off my shirt in front of her. She widened her eyes as she gazed at my body. Wait. How do you get all these muscles? She said in astonishment and even ran her hand on my body to assure herself that it was true. I work out, remember? I replied dismissively to try and hide the gains I got from the gacha prize. Not only 1 year worth of karate training, the prize also included the amount of pink muscles Kenichi had during that time. Therefore, I graduated from my skinny body because of it. She kept running her hand and even squeezed my chest while she said in disbelief, I don't trust you. You were not this big before. Is it because boys are in their growing stage now? She fluttered her eyes as she gazed intently into my eyes. Yup. I guess that's the reason. Even some other places grew too, I joked. Haley blushed and released my body immediately. With a cautious look, she said, pervert. Hey, I meant my arms. What are you thinking about? I turned the blame back to her, making her cower in embarrassment. Although that part did grow too. I added whisperingly, making her bite her lower lips in frustration.
Don't seduce me. Haley admonished me before grabbing my shirt and ran away.
I laughed and went to the toilet to take off my pants and underpants, and placed them in the dryer too. Phil gave me an expensive towel robe to wear while waiting, and we talked for a while before Claire called him away. Mitchell and Cam left soon after, but Claire decided to stay behind to help clean up after the dinner. I helped her to wash the pot while she wiped the tables, but then Gloria came downstairs and said, No.
You don't have to do that. My house, I will clean it. No, Gloria. It's the least I can do,
Claire said without looking at the Latin woman. I turned to look at Gloria, and my jaw dropped as I saw her, already changed into her nightwear. It was a blue satin robe, and her chest area was pretty bare as she picked it extra small. The short skirt was also riding upward on her buttocks, making me see some glimpses that only Jay should see.
Gloria, are you crazy?
Claire was stunned speechless and tried to cover up Gloria's body part from my leering eyes as she saw her.
It's fine. Ed is harmless,
Gloria said before walking to the fridge to drink some milk. She bent over as she opened the fridge, directly in front of my view, and I was reunited with the underpant that had fallen to my head earlier.
They were peeking out of her robe as if saying hello to me. Fuck.
First Jacob was tortured.
Now me.
I mumbled to myself as I got out of the kitchen quickly. I bumped into Haley as I turned the corner. She was still embarrassed from earlier, and she walked away quickly after nodding slightly at me. I went to the pool table to grab my phone after the minor collision.
Hey, what you got there? Alex said as she appeared in front of me. I was startled and checked my towel quickly. Why are you looking down?
Alex was puzzled by my reaction.
And nothing, I said hurriedly. Hey Ed. Why don't you come over tomorrow? We can bounce around on the tramp, Pauline.
Phil said and decided to add something at the end because the sentence sounds too suggestive. I also want to bounce, but I have work to do tomorrow. And since my house has no electricity, I will just stay at the hotel all day,
I said as I pretended to be sad.
Phil was disappointed, but he understood my plight. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, then,
just stay with us tonight. You can work there too. I don't think that's possible. You guys are too much fun.
If I stay there, I know for sure I will postpone my work again.
Honey. Don't force him. Maybe some other time,
Claire said as she walked by and was wiping her hand with a wet towel. She had just cleaned the dining table while packing up the leftovers from the dinner.
Thankfully, there wasn't much left. Only a one-person portion was there. Who didn't come? I muttered.
Suddenly, the doorbell rang and all the people in the house turned to look at the door. It's almost 11, who rang the doorbell at this late hour? Jay mumbled to himself as he walked to the door. But Manny suddenly stopped him midway and said, "Be careful, Jay.
It might be a criminal." "It's not going to be a criminal,"
Jay said gruffly.
But then Phil chimed in with a worried expression, "What if it's a stalker?
We just hosted a party for 3 celebrities.
One is even still with us.
What if they wanted to scour for his fallen hair?"
"Phil, don't be paranoid. It might be someone we know who's in trouble."
Claire muttered. Her words were to reassure herself more than to dispute Phil's crazy stalker theory.
"Or maybe
it's a serial murderer who came to kill all of us,"
Luke added menacingly. Jay.
Manny was afraid and he hugged Jay quickly. Gloria was a bit jealous and needed to hug someone too, so she picked the lonely guy in the crowd.
While hugging me from behind, covering the fact that she was using me as a human shield, Gloria said to Jay, "Do you want my machete?"
"You guys are all ridiculous," Alex said while rolling her eyes.
Jay had enough and pushed Manny away. "If a murderer does come,
I hope he kills me quickly so I don't have to keep dealing with this nonsense." But before he opened the door, the theories kept bugging him, therefore he picked up the baseball bat near the key rack before he opened the door.
"Hey man. can I have some food?
Leo, who was clearly high, was in front of the door as Jay opened it up.
Oh, Leo! I called out in relief.
That's why there's still a portion left.
Yeah, man.
I got lost, and my car ran out of gas on the 3rd Street. I had to walk for an hour to get here.
You cannot believe this.
I saw a car similar to my car before I got here.
3rd Street? But that's just next street.
Jay said quizzically as he heard Leo's story.
What? Hey man, can I have some food? Chapter 92, Getting Busy. Edward POV.
Thankfully I managed to avoid the landmine of Claire coming to supervise. I thought as I breathed a sigh of relief after taking my bags from my house.
My driver to the hotel?
It was none other than the high dude, Leo.
No worries, man.
Leo muttered before he tried to light up a cigar while driving. Although he was doing me a favor by driving me to the hotel, I couldn't let him smoke while I was inside the car.
Leo. I'm a singer. No smoking in front of me. It'll damage my lungs,
I said calmly without trying to antagonize him.
Leo was startled and he said, "Sorry, big boss."
The drive was smooth, and within 30 minutes, I arrived at a luxury 5-stars hotel located in West Hollywood.
As Leo drove me to the entrance, the hotel staff helped me to carry my bags as I waved goodbye to the hippie. "Boss, your house is huge." Leo was in awe after he saw the hotel.
His jaw dropped and his eyes widened as he slowly raised his head upward to check out the building.
Yup. Next time, don't be late, and I'll invite you in,
I said jokingly, in which Leo nodded seriously as the big boss image in his heart shot up exponentially after seeing my house. Despite his effort, he will soon forget about who he was driving and which place he had driven me to, making him the perfect guy to be hired as a driver whenever I wanted to do fishy stuff. Something shocking that I found when I ran a background check on Leo before, he actually bought a lot of IBM stock in 1962, and was basically a millionaire. But I guess after smoking weed for so long, he had forgotten that fact and was living as a hobo the entire time. He even forgot that he had a son, and now his son even had gotten married and had a kid, making him a granddad.
I should let them meet after this,
I muttered to myself as I saw Leo drive away.
"Mr. Luther, your room is ready," the hotel concierge said after I walked to the hotel front desk.
I had already hacked into the hotel system to check for room vacancies so that I wouldn't come here uselessly, and also reserved the penthouse suite under a different name.
"Lead the way," I said as I didn't want the hassle of finding my own room, especially at the giant hotel. The concierge nodded and ushered me to my room with the highest professionalism.
They didn't inquire about my name, job, age, or even try to strike a conversation.
"Thank you,"
I said and tipped the concierge $100 for his effort and entered the room.
Should I go there, or should I just go to sleep? I muttered to myself as I took out Taylor's hotel key from my pocket. Suddenly, my phone vibrates as I get a text message. "Taylor, waiting for you. Pic. Attachment."
I opened it up, smirked, and opened my laptop before I hacked into the hotel's closed-circuit camera system.
You might wonder what was the pic she sent me.
All I could say was that it rhymes with dudes.
"Edward, lucky for me, I'm on your floor right now."
"Taylor, wait."
"Really?" "Taylor, wait 5 minutes before you come in."
The moment I walked in, I saw almost naked Taylor adorning a beautiful emerald green lingerie, with garter belt on her thigh paired with a long white stocking that reached to her thigh.
"You like it?" "I just got it from Victoria's Secret,"
Taylor said with a seductive whisper as she posed seductively with her hand sliding from her waist to her thigh as she did.
"I should have come earlier,"
I said before locking the door behind me after putting a "Do Not Disturb" sign on the doorknob.
"Now, shall we?"
I said with a smirk as I climbed into bed with her.
"Ah, this feels great," I exclaimed as the warm sensation spread throughout my entire body. The euphoric pleasure made me almost give up trying to keep my cool.
Right now, I was naked and inside a hot tub in my room after Taylor and Selena had returned to their workplace. Taylor booked another room for Selena last night after dinner in case I wanted to stop by. I met Selena this morning when she came to Taylor's room for them to check out of the hotel together.
That was awkward. I muttered as I remembered Selena's embarrassed face when she saw me there. Let me reiterate. She saw me there.
Apparently she still had the room key after getting kicked out last night. With a bottle of wine on my side and a few snacks such as strawberries and different types of cheeses, I thoroughly enjoyed my afternoon at the hotel before starting my work.
So, they found out.
Too bad there's no evidence though. I muttered with a chuckle as I watched the hotel front door through the hacked CCTV footage and was counting the number of reporters who caught wind of me staying in the same hotel as Selena and Taylor.
23, and still rising.
I said with a nod while inwardly bracing myself for the future Hollywood shitstorm I would get myself into now that I had debuted. They were trying to call the people involved out, but there's no pictures of us so they couldn't claim that we had our sexcapades in the hotel.
They couldn't enter the hotel because the security wouldn't let them, and even if they did, Selena and Taylor had already left the hotel.
Taylor had to return to New York to prepare for her concert while Selena had to return to the shooting set of Wizard of Waverly Place.
Thank you, Bruce, I said as I toasted my wine glass to the person I received the anti-monitoring ability from.
Bruce's Playboy skill also encompassed how to create a positive scandal that would hide his alternate ego, therefore after reverse engineering the skill, I used that to avoid a scandal altogether as I don't want to deal with the Hollywood craziness just yet.
Suddenly, my phone rang.
I picked up the phone and said, "Hello Harvey."
"Ed. Are you at XXX Hotel?" she asked. "Yeah," I replied casually. "Did you meet with Taylor and Selena last night?"
"Yup."
"Did you do it?" "A little bit," I said as I didn't feel the need to hide anything from my lawyer. "Don't worry, the last question was just from me. I will send over a few bodyguards to protect you from the hyenas and a driver so that you can have a nice trip," Harvey said casually. "Thanks. But I'm not getting out of the hotel room.
I'm still working on a new management system for the company, it's just something I recently figured out."
"I will send it to you in an hour?" Harvey was confused and asked, "Didn't you go there for enjoyment?"
"Nah. I only wanted a nice quiet place to work."
"I really don't understand you."
"Okay, I will wait for the document to arrive before I do anything else."
"So you actually lied to me about sleeping together with the girls, huh?"
"Nah.
I did that too,"
I said with a light chuckle. However, Harvey didn't believe me anymore and hung up after confirming my hotel room number. Then, I got a lecture from Pepper about the importance of using protection and also about maintaining my public image, not acting out like a total incubus.
"Well, that's that,"
I said before getting out of the tub and wore a towel robe.
I soon opened my laptop and typed a 60-page company management guideline and emailed the document to Harvey.
All in all, it took me no more than 50 minutes to get it all out.
That took me faster than I thought,"
I said before stretching my arms up and opened up my email next. Soon, I delved into the Newgate tourism business and my Flappy Bird game company work and didn't move from my position for hours until dinner time to settle all the work I had missed.
Third-person POV. Entertain company, new office.
Located nearby the busy Pasadena City, the old Saltzman 40-story building, a classic old skyscraper worth well over $100 million had just changed its ownership from Denise Saltzman to Sherman Pepper Saltzman, and it was undergoing renovations to change it from a normal, dull, and lifeless oil company HQ to a more creativity-inclined office under Pepper's leadership.
"Where do you want this bamboo plant to go?" a skinny Latin man from Guatemala asked as he followed Pepper around as an assistant. "Lucky bamboo plant.
This plant brings health, prosperity and luck and should be placed in either the east side, if I want it to influence health, or the northeast part of the office if it's for wealth."
"I guess, put it on the east side. I want Edward to be healthy after all,"
Pepper said as he fanned his face with a paper fan.
Ronaldo nodded and walked away to place the tree where Pepper wanted it to be.
He had a rare, sincere smile on his face after he talked to Pepper and muttered, "He's so kind."
Pepper had just hired Ronaldo to be his assistant after a recommendation from Edward.
Not only that, A lot of the new employees in the company were recommended by Edward and most of them were only starting out in their job, therefore Pepper was extremely confused by Edward's choice. I really don't see why he asked me to hire that guy. He'll thrive more as a party planner than an assistant. Pepper said in confusion as he watched Ronaldo walk away. You'll also thrive more as a party planner than a CEO. Harvey quipped as she walked into Pepper's stripped bare office that was without a desk or a chair. The walls were broken down to be rebuilt, and the floor tiles were also removed. That's true. Pepper said in agreement before asking, did Mother finish sending the money? Yes. In fact, she even started a separate trust under the company name. You basically have unlimited funding from your mother after this. Also, she wants, and I quote, the twinkling little star to come have dinner at the estate whenever possible. I believe she has already been captured by Ed's charm as you expected her to be. Humph. Now she believes in me. Pepper said sarcastically. Without a change in expression, Harvey said, didn't she already apologize to you? When my dad said sorry, he gave me a hug. Yours gave you a building. Pepper smirked and said, you poor thing, you might think this is a huge concession from her. But no. The loss of this building doesn't even make a dent in her fortune. I can't wait for her to be dead. Now. No need to send her your well wishes. Ed emailed me a 60-page management guideline. So take a look. Harvey took out the printed guideline and gave it to Pepper. He also said he will handle the creation of an employee training and management manual soon. Harvey added. Pepper sighed as he looked at the pages. He turned to Harvey and asked in puzzlement, I thought he went there to have fun? I didn't say anything as he was mourning the mysterious grandmother no one knows, but he actually went there to work instead? Harvey nodded and explained his thoughts, that is confusing for me too. 2 girls, and he chose work instead. This cannot be done in just a few hours. It'll take time to finish it, no matter how much of a genius he is. Unless someone spoon-fed him the new management method and let him copy it, I don't think he even met with the girls last night. Pepper sighed again and shook his head. He said, how's the search for a therapist going? I found a female therapist with tight lips named Dr. Linda Martin. Ed will have his first session on Thursday after his decathlon thing. Harvey said. Ted gave the okay? Pepper asked in confirmation. Yes. He is also going to be there for support. But the hard part is to convince Edward. Pepper thought for a while before saying, just leave that to his dad. If he fails, then I'm going to try it. Harvey nodded before adding, not only this, she pointed to the guideline. Ed also did some extra work by straightening out the taxes, handling future investments, and finding out a few distribution channels for the album to reach the global market. I checked his game company and the shipping company if he did some work there too, as I expect he did. He's working extremely hard. Someone needs to go there to stop him, or else. You know how he is. If we tell him to stop, then he'll find another way to do it without us knowing about it instead. Pepper sighed exasperatedly. Wait. Didn't Lynn call today? Pepper's eyes lit up as he remembered something. Yeah. The Ironettes audition starts tonight. Sarah Finn and Robert Downey Jr. are going to be there. Harvey replied. Good. Bring him there. He got the audition for his friends, so he needs to be there for support. Pepper said. Harvey smiled and said, okay. I'll tell him and ask him to get ready. Make sure he has dinner first. Pepper added. It'll be a long night for him. But tell him if he wants to go home early, he can. He just has to let his friends down by doing so. You're awful. Harvey said with a smile as she arranged for Pepper's plan. Cuba. At Havana's club a few days ago, Camila was listening to her nephew's new song using an earphone while checking her emails on her laptop. She had a grin on her face the entire time she listened to the songs. She was wearing a feminine floral pattern dress but with her leather jacket on. Hey chica dash. Not interested. Camila shot down the greasy-looking Cuban man with a fedora on his head. The man accepted her rejection and moved away slowly while checking out Camila's body one last time.
That guy sucks.
I wonder if he took a stereotype checklist for a Cuban asshole before he came to the club. Camila turned to check the source of the voice and found an American man sitting adjacent to her at the bar and was toasting his scotch at her as their eyes met. The man looked suspiciously like Ryan Reynolds and was wearing a yellow floral print shirt with a few buttons opened, revealing his taut chest muscles. She rolled her eyes and wanted to get back to the song, but the man had already slid next to her and said, "Are you listening to Edward Newgate's new song?"
Not Interwait, you know him?
Camila changed her mind about rejecting the conversation with the man.
Know him?
I'm a fan of his, even before, when he played the violin. The man said with a smile before sipping his scotch. Camila grinned from ear to ear as she talked to the man. He was nice, not a horn dog, and most importantly, he knew how to treat a lady right.
So, are we going to keep talking, or can I finally know your name?
He asked. Camila smiled and said while fluttering her eyes at him, Camila.
Camila Monroe. Wayne. Wayne Bruce. Oh. Do you perhaps have an alternate ego in the night named Man-Bat? Camila joked.
Wayne slumped his shoulders depressingly but with a smile on his face that showed Camila it wasn't the first time someone made that joke about his name. They exchanged numbers and he even asked her out on a date soon while he was still staying in Cuba. Camila learned that he was a businessman coming here to trade a few car auto parts, which made her extremely interested in him and what he was doing. Not to mention, he was handsome. After Camila left to go back to her hotel, Wayne's friendly face turned stoic and he contacted his team. With a condescending sneer, he said, "I got in touch with the target.
I knew not many women could resist my extremely charming face. See how easy that was?"
The nerdy agent that followed him to Cuba rolled his eyes and said, "Doesn't matter.
Don't expose yourself. The FBI don't have jurisdiction here. Do you think I'm dumb? I know what I'm doing."
Really?
Then, why don't you invite her to a hotel tonight?
A lady needs to be treated with respect.
You have a crush on her, don't you?
Shut up.
I don't. She's just a mission target.
Really?
Then, where are you taking her for your first date? Café L'Amour.
The nerdy agent grinned while Wayne cursed at him.
Hey you. American.
Suddenly, the Cuban man with the fedora that was hitting on Camila a few paragraphs ago shouted at Wayne.
He walked briskly toward Wayne with a few bulky men walking along with him. Oh.
Here comes trouble, the nerdy agent said with a Sinji-sanji voice and was looking forward to Wayne going to be beaten up by the local gang.
I can't fight back, right? Wayne asked.
Yup.
You'll risk exposing yourself. So you should either let them have their way with you. Bend over. Don't gag. Or just run away.
At the bar, Wayne looked at the gang member with an exasperated look as they were already encircling him.
Couldn't you have told me that sooner? He asked depressingly. You're a senior agent.
You should have thought of that yourself, the nerd said before cutting off the call. Wayne sighed and put the phone in his pocket before saying, "Hey.
Isn't that Ryan Reynolds?"
"Where?" The gang member turned to check out the bar in search of the celebrity. Wayne took the opportunity to push the fedora-wearing man and ran away hurriedly before he was going to get beaten.
Mierda. Agarenlo.
Shit, get him. The fedora-wearing Cuban shouted.
Edward POV. Iron Man 2? Tonight? Why did they do it at night? I asked in confusion after I talked to Harvey. No idea.
But, it seems that it's because of Robert.
You go there and you can ask them. Harvey said. I remembered an article about the Iron Man 2 movie in my previous life that mentioned Robert Downey Jr.'s unconventional way of improvising in the film. It caused the writers to almost be mad as they needed to rewrite the script multiple times because of the actor. It became that way because the studio had interfered with the movie production and even interfered with Jon Favreau work because they wanted to sell more merchandise. Of course, most of the claims come from people who thought Iron Man 2 was the worst MCU movie. I thought secretly. But, I want to finish my job.
I'm even working on figuring out my air fryer's design today. I have a lot of things on my plate.
It's okay if you don't want to go. Just call Kaya and Anna yourself.
I'm sure they'll understand that you have no trust in them.
Are you guilt-tripping me? I don't know. Am I? I sighed and said, okay, fine. I'll go. Great.
The driver is waiting for you downstairs. Ronaldo will be there to help you get in when you arrive. Harvey hung up the call soon after.
Ah. Ronaldo's here. I exclaimed happily before going to change my clothes. Luckily for me, I brought a few options.
I decided to wear a red flannel shirt on top of a white t-shirt and folded the sleeves to half my forearms. I paired the shirt with black jeans and Nike sneakers before leaving the hotel room.
Let's go to Marvel Studio. Chapter 93, Becoming an Actor? Edward POV. The black SUV with dark tinted windows entered the studio district in Hollywood.
I could see the Paramo *NT picture set and a few other studios around. The buildings were beige in color and seemed lifeless from the outside.
But inside them?
It was filled with various sets ranging from an old West town to the New York City streets.
It was my first time entering the sets, but, interestingly enough, not my first opportunity to do so.
Apparently in our school, the teacher could bring the students here for a field trip.
However, I had never gone before, nor was I in the drama club. Damn. Marvel got a huge-ass studio.
They have upgraded. I muttered as I stood in front of the set for Iron Man 2. Starting from facing bankruptcy and a low movie budget, the studio managed to revive their company with the production of the Iron Man movie.
We have arrived.
The Singh, Punjabi, driver said with a thick accent.
I nodded and asked, Ronaldo? He's coming. The driver said. I nodded and got out of the car before waiting for Ronaldo at the entrance of the studio.
A skinny Guatemalan man walked hurriedly towards where I was standing and said with a thick accent, Mr. Newgate.
I'm Ronaldo. I know. Can we get in?
I asked after reaching my hand out for a handshake with him. He was mildly startled before he grabbed my hand and shook it.
He flashed a sincere smile and said, yes. Unfortunately, the interview is already over. Wait. Are you serious?
I asked exasperatingly as the only reason I went there was to provide some moral support for the girls.
What about Dash? They made it. And now they are fitting for the Ironette bikinis. Ronaldo said, accurately guessing what I wanted to ask.
I nodded and opened my mouth to ask, but he interrupted me again.
They want to meet you. They gave you a pass you can use to get to their dressing room. However, I don't recommend you to go there.
He said with concern while fiddling with a white card-shaped key in his hand.
Why not? I asked in confusion.
His eyes shook as he thought whether to tell me the truth or not. Finally, he decided to put his trust in me. Well, all 20 girls are basically naked inside the dressing room as they are fitted for the outfit.
Ah. I understand. I said.
Ronaldo breathed in relief as he saw me being respectful to the girls. I saw his expression and shrugged. Well, if the room is only for the two of them, I will go in.
But if there are other dancers, I won't invade their privacy.
Ronaldo heard my words, but he was confused regardless.
Then why are your hands slowly trying to reach the keycard?
I was startled and retracted my hand hurriedly.
Damn. You noticed that, huh?
I said jokingly, causing Ronaldo to laugh for the first time in front of me. He usually tried to keep a professional manner, but today I managed to close the distance between us. Just like Pepper, Ronaldo shared the same loyal trait which made me want to befriend him sooner than usual. Of course, if he fell in love with Pepper earlier just like in the original timeline, then I wouldn't have any objections to it.
By the way, is Dwayne single? Ronaldo asked me bashfully while leading me to the film set.
Right after I walked into the studio, I met with the set executive and she gave me a couple of rules to follow when I was inside the studio. First, I should not interfere with their work. Not that I needed to have it said, after all it was common sense that shouldn't even be included in the guideline anyway, but you would be shocked to know how many dumb rich people there are. While she was explaining the rules, suddenly a pompous and a bit condescending voice sounded from behind us, making me turn my head to the source of the voice.
"What's a teen artist doing here? Kid, if you want to audition for the Ironette role, it's too late."
I saw RDJ walking towards me with a smile on his face. Just to be clear, he was in his Tony Stark persona as they were currently shooting, therefore he was playing around with a kid who he assumed was a lucky fan. "But Mr. RDJ, I'm sure if I put on a wig and dance, I will be better than anyone you casted.
So give me a chance?"
I said with a pitiful voice as I persuaded him. RDJ's face froze while Ronaldo looked at me mouth agape in shock.
Ha ha ha.
RDJ laughed hard enough for most people in the set could hear, and he couldn't help but break his character. He returned to the still pompous but kind-hearted RDJ and patted my shoulder as he laughed.
"Kid, no matter what color wig you wear, there's no way you're dancing on that stage."
"Ah, that's fine though, cause I only come here to support my friends who are auditioning."
RDJ nodded and said, "You're the singer, right? The one who sang Shivers when you did that interview?"
"Yes."
"I'm surprised you know me,"
I said with slightly widened eyes as he guessed my identity.
"Well,
I didn't at first. But I was stuck at my friend's child's birthday party, and you were all the kids were talking about," RDJ said before he waved the exec away. After Iron Man 1, he completely changed people's impression of him from a druggie to a highly capable and respected actor. I thought that I would geek out when I met with him today, but surprisingly, Bruce Wayne's identity management skill helped me to maintain my usual character.
it was a surprise, and a good one.
This way, I wouldn't simp out on a short few people that I knew in my previous life if I accidentally meet them in the future.
"Friend? Is it Don Cheadle?" I blurted out without thinking much. RDJ was shocked for real this time and replied with a stammer, "Why yeah, how do you know?"
I shrugged and said, "Just gossips."
He sighed and said, "So it got out, huh?"
Terrence would no longer be joining the Marvel movies after Iron Man 1 because of a disagreement on his actor fee. I was surprised that this happened in this universe too, but I guess I shouldn't be too surprised as a lot of things stayed the same.
"Let's walk to the buffet,"
RDJ said and led me to where the stars dined. I couldn't meet the dancers at this moment because they went directly to practice the choreography with the director.
"Wait. You guys are shooting the scene tonight?"
I asked in shock as I was in awe with the studio's efficiency.
"Well, we could do it sooner, but filming in Monaco took a very long time.
So we're rushing to meet the schedule," RDJ said, hinting that I shouldn't try to cause any trouble.
"You guys don't look that busy though,"
I said dismissively. He looked at me with narrowed eyes and said, "You know I don't usually act as a tour guide, but I never expected to guide such a rude guest my first time in." I chuckled a bit and said, "You didn't really become a tour guide from the kindness of your heart, right?"
I asked as I could see that we were both really bored right now.
RDJ smiled as he had been exposed and walked to the buffet table to pick up some walnuts. He propped a few of them at once into his mouth and said, "You got me."
"Unfortunately, there's no correct prize for the right answer."
I shrugged and said faux pitifully, "Damn. And here I thought I could get you to sign 1,000 copies of the Iron Man poster." "Kid, I will sign it, but I want you to appreciate it because my signature is expensive weight."
"Did you say 1,000?
He stopped and looked towards me in disbelief.
I nodded and said casually, "Yeah. I want to sell them on eBay for some pocket money." "Aren't you rich?"
RDJ breathed sharply while in disbelief. He turned to pick up a plate and changed the subject quickly as signing 1,000 posters would be a nightmare for him.
"Try the chicken salad. A staff member brought it from home." "My autographs?" I asked puzzledly. "Try the lasagna too. My 1,000 posters dash. This muffin is also great,"
he said as he plugged my mouth with the muffin. I glared at him for a second before tasting the sweet muffin cream. It was sweet and chocolatey, so I forgave him. I stopped teasing the anxious RDJ after he broke into a cold sweats while trying to eat. I smiled and picked up a plate before scooping some of the chicken salad. However, my nose picked up a strange smell as I sniffed the food.
Wait. How long ago did the staff bring the salad here?
I asked as I stopped RDJ from eating the chicken salad.
She just opened it now, he said in puzzlement.
I was confused too when I tasted the salad a little, only for me to spit it back out and grimaced hard.
It's starting to go bad. It's better not to eat it,
I said before wiping my mouth with a napkin.
Even though I'm immune to bad food, I still couldn't torture my taste bud by putting rotten food in my mouth.
RDJ didn't believe me and he sniffed the salad on his plate.
But it smells fine?
I don't care if you don't want to believe me. Just don't blame me if you get diarrhea after this, I said and threw my plate to the trash bin before picking up a new one.
RDJ POV.
I thought he was a geek, but I never thought that he was actually a nice kid. Previously, I lied to him about not knowing who he was when I first met him. I knew instantly who he was because Susan couldn't stop talking about him. She even joined his fan club, and even asked me if I could help her get in touch with him before. Too bad that none of my connections could help me, cause the kids' company was basically a new and rapidly growing company. Also, I admit his songs were great. Although, I liked Believer more than the others. He didn't know this, but him coming here was no longer a secret as the Ironette dancers had basically declared his presence to everyone here. And apparently John wanted to meet him for some personal reason. Susan wasn't a new fan of his. In fact, she had met him a couple of times behind the curtain at a symphony. I didn't know what happened there, but she cursed the kid's mother a few times when she got back. And she almost cried when watching his interview before. I should get his number after this. I secretly reminded myself as to not sleep on the couch again when I go home next time.
I have a good impression of the kid. But now, him denying me the opportunity to eat the chicken salad that I had been eyeing for so long made my impression on him conflicted. Is he lying to get attention? Or is there something really wrong with the salad? I thought to myself. I sniffed the salad, but I couldn't find anything wrong with it. Oh well,
I said before stabbing the salad with my fork and wanted to bring it to my mouth, but stopping at the last minute.
Damn it! I cursed and threw the salad away. Kid, if you're wrong, I'm going to kick you out,
I said to him as I called the staff nearby.
He didn't even react and was enjoying a slice of chocolate cake with an intoxicated expression.
To my horror, his hand reached out to take the last slice of the cake.
Wait, that's mine!
I screamed and snatched the cake with my fingers before eating it messily, without even trying to use a spoon or a plate.
Third-person POV.
As the celebrities walked away while bickering with one another, the staff member that RDJ called before got to work quickly and took the salad away from the buffet table.
Is it really gone bad? Janet will be sad if she knows,
he said as he took a confirmation sniff on the salad.
There's nothing wrong with it though?
He said with some confusion before smiling bitterly as he thought of something.
That must be it.
That kid is lying to get RDJ's attention. Then, he decided to put the salad back on the table and left the buffet table to do his actual work instead.
Edward POV.
Kid, you sang at a concert before, right? RDJ asked as we walked to the stage set. It was the set of the Stark Expo exhibition stage. The one where Iron Man performed together with the Ironettes to announce the beginning of the Stark Expo. We walked to the stage where almost 100 people were waiting and stood at the center of the stage.
Yeah.
I have,
I said with a melancholic tone. Wait. Don't you miss performing at concerts right now?
RDJ said in disbelief.
You know you're an artist, right?
He asked sarcastically. I shook my head and said, it's not that.
I'm just too busy right now. He asked me about a few things.
About the experience of facing thousands of people, how I handle my crowd control, and a few others in which I replied to all of his questions honestly. He was gathering data for his performance, and I didn't want to snub his enthusiasm. Not to mention he brought me to many places around the set and even introduced me to a few other people. I was looking around to see ScarJo in a leather suit, but too bad she wasn't in the studio today. Our DJ seemed to understand something and started to pry. I know that your age is a secret. But can you tell me? You're at least 16, right? I shook my head. Then, 17? I shook my head again. 15? He asked while gulping his saliva. I shrugged and said, around that. Yeah. He breathed sharply and looked at me up and down with disbelief in his eyes. I smiled wryly and our DJ felt weak on his knees. I really thought you were a junior, he said, feeling a bit intimidated as my height had already surpassed his in such a young age. I haven't even finished middle school yet, I said casually, adding to our DJ's disbelief. Mic check. Sound check. The sound system staff suddenly tapped the microphone in at the stage to check the speaker quality. Should we move? I asked. Ed. Can I call you that? Our DJ said carefully with a smile on his face. He was leading me around as a senior, but I guess he felt a bit awkward to strike a friendship with a teenage boy. After all, he didn't share the same interest as the individuals who had visited a certain island. I was weirded out and said, sure. If you really want to. Do you want to test for the Spider-Man role? I think it'll suit you, he said. Nah. I don't want to date Zendaya. Huh? What? Our DJ was confused, but I wasn't elaborating anything. Also, doesn't Sony still hold the rights for the movie? He smirked and said ambiguously, yeah. I'm not talking about now, wait, but it'll be hard in the future too. After all, he looked at me up and down again and said, you're still growing. I opened my mouth to retort, but then I understood what he was talking about. I nodded in acceptance and asked, not that, I do admit to having some interest in becoming Spidey. Why did you ask me about that anyway? You don't know, do you? I guess you never checked the articles about you, our DJ said in contemplation. I was confused and said, what articles? I was clear about most of the articles written about me in the music industry, so I was confused as to what he was talking about. Our DJ suddenly shook his head and said, wait. Not an article. More like a fan cast. Your fans said you can be Spider-Man as you have the intelligence. But seeing your reaction, I guess that's exaggerated. You're not that smart. Hey Mike. Let the kid do the sound check. Our DJ suddenly said and dragged me to the microphone before I could react. I was startled, but I let myself be dragged so as to not accidentally injure the man. They couldn't film without the main character after all. My voice is expensive though, I said cheekily as I made the money gesture with my finger. Our DJ rolled his eyes and said, the payment is not kicking you out of the set. I actually don't care much if I get kicked out. I only came here to meet Anna and Kaya, who I recommended for the interview. I'd rather be home now and continue working. Our DJ was stunned and he asked with a tiny voice, really? I thought you came here to visit the set. Yeah, I replied casually, making him stunned again. He then shook his head and grinned evilly. He said, 1,000, no, that's too hard. I will give you a signed Iron Man helmet instead. Deal, I said, and we shook hands. Third-person POV. Ronaldo had returned after calling Kaya and Anna out of the choreography practice as they were on a break. As the scene was short, there wasn't a lot of choreography for them to handle, and being professionals, they had already trained the choreography to perfection, even surprising the head choreographer. The trio passed the buffet table to get to the stage where Ed was waiting. However, the other dancers were gathering around the buffet table instead as they had just finished practicing as was famished. Of course, for dancers who took care of their body, they avoided sweets and high-carbohydrate food and instead settled on the chicken salad. Chapter 94, Playing Around. Mic check 1 2 1 2. I was doing the mic check like our DJ asked me to do, but the guy facepalmed and said, dude.
Trey could do that himself. Trey referring to the staff member doing the sound check before this. I was surprised that he knew the staff member's name. Then, what do you want me to do? I asked slyly, pretending that I didn't know what he meant. Sing. Our DJ said with a hidden intention. He actually wanted to study more about my performing style by watching it himself, but he wouldn't admit that. Okay, sure. I said jokingly. Only because you asked me to. He rolled his eyes before grinning as he walked to downstage and mingled with the audience. He stood among the crowd members to experience the performance naturally and was crossing his arms as he waited for me to get ready. There isn't any instrument though. I said before a staff member suddenly ran towards me and handed me a guitar before disappearing like a shadow. Even our DJ was stunned as he saw that. Suddenly, he understood what happened as he saw the movie director standing beside him. John. Finished your argument with Susan? Our DJ asked while I was tuning my guitar. No. I will continue that later. Jon Favreau had come to watch the guest member play, becoming one of the many hired crowd members today. The crowd of 100 people screamed as I went up the mic. This reminds me of my first ever performance in a cafe. I said while grabbing the mic, making a few people laugh here and there. However, before I could continue, a fuming Ronaldo walked briskly towards me and stopped my performance by shouting at me from down the stage. Mr. Newgate. Can I have a moment with you? He said with gritted teeth as he gestured for me to come closer to him. Oh. Am I in trouble? I said to the mic again before crouching at the edge of the stage to hear what Ronaldo had to say. What happened? Our DJ asked himself. John sighed and said, I think I know. I returned to stand behind the mic after Ronaldo explained to me a few things, and I said, okay. So apparently I cannot sing my songs here without my lawyer, so I will be doing a cover song instead. Also, I need to say a disclaimer that the footage captured purposely or accidentally during my performance had no connection to the movie the studio was producing. Is it okay now? I looked at Ronaldo, and he sighed before nodding his head. Huh? Our DJ was confused, so he turned to John. The director then explained, if he doesn't put a disclaimer, we will be able to use it. Not that I want to do that, but that's how copyright law works. Ah. I get it now. Our DJ exclaimed before inwardly praising Ronaldo. So, any requests? I asked the audience after thinking for a while. Our DJ suddenly shouted the first name that came into his mind, Elvis. I looked directly at him and said in disbelief, seriously? How old are you? Shut up. His songs are timeless. He retorted quickly. I ignored him and greeted Kaya and Anna, who were jumping up and down while in their Ironette uniform, making me grin widely as my eyes followed their bounciness. The top part of the uniform was a crop-top, Iron Man-themed shirt with gold and red color, while a replica of the arc reactor was pushing the girls' breast upward, making them pop out of their shirt. The bottom part was still made with the Iron Man theme, and the short pants hugged the dancer's bottom snugly. Talk about fan service. I muttered. Our DJ and John nodded stealthily as they agreed with my words. Just a costume reference. Since our DJ requested it, I will be singing a song, but as I'm feeling old school, there is nothing else I can do, so I will be honoring the king and try to give you a worthy version of I Can't Help Falling in Love. I said before picking on the guitar strings to create the melody. I closed my eyes as I immersed myself in the music, and slowly, the murmurs from the crowd became less and less, until it finally stopped.
Wise men say only fools rush in.
I sang with a soothing and a jazzy voice, mesmerizing the entire crowd. Kaya cupped her mouth in awe while Ronaldo raised one of his brows. Damn! Our DJ exclaimed as his jaw dropped from his shock. I didn't know whether it was because I loved this song before this, or that my druid's soul voice leaked out without me realizing it,
but my voice had started to shake the souls of those who heard it.
Ronaldo POV.
But I can't help falling in love with you.
I was honestly shocked when I heard his voice. I knew he was good, but I never really listened to his vocals properly before. Suddenly, I found myself transported to the 80s where everything was in a sepia filter.
A dance club in the middle of nowhere.
Only me, and the one person who was always in my mind was there. I wrapped my hand around his muscled waist as we danced. Ed's voice reverberated at the dance floor.
Shall I stay? Would it be a sin?
Oh, Dwayne.
I thought as I placed my head on his chest while he wrapped himself around me.
If I can't help falling in love with you.
General POV. Ed finally opened his eyes and he was a bit startled by the crowd's reaction. Some were in tears, some started dancing with a partner. Even Ronaldo was hugging himself and was dancing as he enjoyed the song.
Like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be.
And just as he expected, some people started to kiss each other. However, it wasn't at the level of brainwashing. Those people were in fact a couple. The single guys in the crowd couldn't help but show a look of longing as they heard the song. Our DJ and John Favreau were in a trance and was actually slow dancing with one another. They noticed it a minute in on their dance, and separated from each other with disgust immediately afterward.
Take my hand, take my whole life too.
The crowd waved their hand in the air, gently saying it as they followed the song's rhythms. Ed didn't stop singing from the crowd's strange reaction, but instead he poured his heart and soul into the song as he sang.
For I can't help falling in love with you. For I can't help falling in love with
With a hint of sadness in his voice, Ed locked eyes with the audience members and sang the last verse. He finished the song with a soft outro, and then a thunderous applause was heard, shaking the entire movie set. Ronaldo snapped out of his delusion, and hurriedly recovered his focus to try and protect me better. Edward smiled at the crowd and said, "Everyone, if you have someone you love, don't wait until it's too late to let them know."
With that, I think it's safe to say the mics are okay, no?
Also, Robert, you now owe me a signed Iron Man helmet, and you bet your sweet Hollywood ass I will cash it soon. The crowd giggled before they started chanting encore, to encourage Ed to continue singing.
Even John didn't say anything and agreed with the rest of the crowd as it wasn't yet time to shoot the next scene yet.
But then, Edward suddenly shushed them.
Edward POV. Hey! Can you guys hear that?
I asked the audience as I suddenly heard something strange. The crowd thought I was acting at first, but in their silence, they could hear some grumbling and screams coming from behind the stage set. John was concerned and he walked to the source of the disturbance hurriedly.
"Ed, let's go take a look,"
our DJ said with a hint of excitement. "Someone might just die here, and the whole place will have to be locked down until we find the culprit,"
he said, failing to control his excitement anymore.
I rolled my eyes at him before jumping from the 1.5-meter tall stage, completely making Ronaldo feel horrified by my action.
"Are you crazy?" he yelled.
I looked at him with a grin and said, "Come here, tits. Let's go take a look."
"That's offensive," Ronaldo retorted. "Why?" "It's a bird," I said in confusion.
Ronaldo was completely stunned by my reply, but he couldn't do anything as I had already followed Robbie to look at what was happening. Kaya and Anna hugged me in each arm as I walked, making him sneer at my misery.
"Ed, thank you for the opportunity," Kaya said with a sincere tone. Anna nodded and said, "If there's anything, and I do mean anything you want from us, you can just dash." Before she could finish, I interrupted her quickly, "Don't say that. My intentions are pure. I just think you guys are great dancers, so I was only helping out a bit. You don't need to repay me with anything." Kaya bit her lips and said, "But dash." "No buts. Also, your scene is barely less than a minute. Even Penny had more screen time in my music video," I said teasingly as I changed the subject. Anna noticed what I was doing and she didn't say anything lest I felt uncomfortable with their persistence. After all, we were only surface-level friends, and not really that close. She released me and gestured to Kaya to do the same. The Latina girl reluctantly released my hand as I smiled wryly at them. We arrived at the source of the disturbance, only to find several dancers were clutching their stomachs as they banged on the toilet door. Not only the dancers, several staff members had already run out of the studio in search of a toilet while trying hard to clench their buttocks to prevent leaking. "What the hell happened here?" John asked furiously as he stopped an anxious staff member. It was the same staff member that our DJ had called to remove the salad from the buffet table before. It was the chicken salad," a dancer said with gritted teeth as she held her hurting stomach. "Holy Mother dash!" our DJ exclaimed in disbelief as he thought about what happened before. He turned to me quickly, but I only shrugged as a response. "I did tell you that salad had gone bad before," I said casually. Agrhhh. The same dancer who tattled before screamed in pain as she banged on the toilet door again. John and our DJ went to help the people who were clutching their stomachs, and some even fainted. I asked a staff member to call 911 as a lot of people needed medical attention. Before long, the place was crowded with EMTs. Robbie gulped and inwardly thanked himself for trusting my words before this. Otherwise, I would be in one of the ambulances, he muttered to himself while wiping the cold sweats on his forehead. The scene filming had to be postponed as the majority of the dancers were hospitalized. Jon Favreau invited me to the director's office to talk after I settled my business with the dancers. However, Anna and Kaya decided to go home instead after getting out of the Ironette uniform as it was almost 2 a.m. now. I didn't stop them, and before they left, they invited me to their apartment, saying that I should stop by whenever. I just agreed to be polite, but I didn't actually have any plans to go there. I knocked on the director office's door 2 times before turning the door handle. "Is this the Ultimate Fighting Champions room?" I asked. John chuckled while our DJ said in excitement while mocking the director, "Boom. I knew he would recognize you. You owe me $20. Tisk, okay. Come on in, Ed," John said before ignoring our DJ. We talked a bit about Friends TV series before John finally spoke of his purpose of inviting me there. "You know, Lynn told me that you had guessed almost the entire movie plot correctly," John said with a serious face. "Is the plot so predictable?" he asked with a hint of concern in his eyes. I shook my head and said, "No. Most of the new fans won't even know who Iron Man's enemies are. Not everyone is familiar with the comics after all." "Then, how did you know? Did someone leak it to you?" he asked. He didn't accuse me, but he was genuinely concerned whether or not the storyline had been exposed. "Well, I am familiar with the comics," I lied, but my acting skill made it seem like I was telling the truth. John eased up a bit and we got into an intense discussion about Marvel Comics. Like I said, pick one villain. It's a loss if you put both in the same movie. I debated. Not a lot of people know about Whiplash or Justin Hammer. It's the only plotline that made sense. John argued back. Justin Hammer created the Super Adaptoid. A robot that could break the Avengers if used properly. What the hell are you guys talking about?
RDJ shook his head in disbelief after John and I had been arguing nonstop for 30 minutes.
John suddenly sighed and said, I understand your concerns. But, there's too many villains in this series.
And we're also going to introduce some new characters, so we can't dash.
Let me guess. Nick Fury and Black Widow?
John was shocked once again, but after a thorough discussion, I understood his dilemma in the production. It wasn't his fault that the movie was going to be critiqued in the future. He really tried. But to be honest, even though some people critiqued the story, a lot more people thought that the movie was awesome. There were a lot more leisure watchers than die-hard fans after all.
Hey! I actually have an idea, but I don't know if it is good or not.
I said while scratching my cheek shyly.
Huh? What idea?
RDJ asked.
A song idea. I explained a bit more. John's eyes lit up and he said, let's hear about it. 4 a.m.
I finally returned to the hotel, mind full of exhaustion. I jumped on the bed without even changing my clothes and muttered in amazement, can't believe I have RDJ's phone number. Ronaldo had done his job perfectly and even acted as a mediator in my negotiation with John after he decided to accept my idea. The good news was, it would take a long time for the movie production to finish, so there was no rush for me to do what I suggested. The bad news is, now I have added extra work to my already crumbling hill of unfinished projects. I sighed as I set an alarm to wake up at 8 a.m., which was barely 4 hours from the time now. Wait, how do I activate the skill? I muttered as I tried to summon the active skill. I tried a few chants. Zim zim zala bim, avada kedavra, abracadabra, but nothing was working. But, all I needed to do was to actually close my eyes and have the intention of resting for the skill to activate itself. In less than 30 seconds after I closed my eyes, I had already fallen to dreamland, which was a new record for a relatively overthinking person like me.
General POV.
While the Dunphys were having dinner, there was one person missing from the dining table as she was preoccupied with her work.
Honey. Just eat first. I'm swamped with work right now. Ed has just sent over multiple orders that I need to analyze and reply to as soon as I can.
Claire said to Phil, who called her to have dinner together as a family. She had tied up her hair and was wearing her eyeglasses as she looked at Phil, asking for his understanding.
But honey, you've been working all day long,
Phil said in concern.
Yeah, Mom. Aren't you working part-time?
Luke asked. Claire said hurriedly to brag and to correct, no Luke, not anymore, I'm already a vice director.
For a 10-person company,
Haley said snidely. However, Claire grinned and said, number 75 people now.
We're expanding quicker than Luke's pants after dinner.
Hey! Luke yelled. Claire didn't apologize and continued working.
Well, if Mom isn't joining.
Alex tried to stand up and leave, but Phil said sternly, sit down.
This is our time together as a family.
We're going to sit here, eat this pizza, and talk about how your mother loves work more than us. Well, for one thing, people actually care about what I say and think at work.
Claire retorted without even looking at Phil.
Ugh, but I need to study.
Alex groaned in frustration.
Haley snickered at her misery and said, well, I, for one, do enjoy the time together with my family. Especially with Dad, who has worked so hard to show us how much he loves us. Phil was touched, and his eyes became teary. With a choked-up voice, he turned to Haley and said, my beautiful daughter Dash.
So Dad.
I was thinking after we have this wholesome family time.
Could I go to Ed's hotel? You know he's all alone there.
Phil was stunned speechless and was influenced, but Claire certainly wasn't.
No, you may not.
He's working hard, and you're only going to disturb him.
Go study for your finals instead. Otherwise you won't be able to reach the next grade.
Haley rolled her eyes at her mother and retorted, "Hey, I can go to the next grade."
I'm not that dumb.
Then, she continued with a concerned whisper, "I just need to make sure to get at least a D for every subject." Dad, Haley whined, trying to beg her dad to change her mother's mind.
I'm with your mom on this one,
Phil said wryly before turning to Claire again and adding hurriedly,
Are you sure you can't take a 15-minute break? Is Ed still working? He needs dinner too. He's going to a movie studio for something,
Claire said, before grinning hard as she managed to finish one of her assignments today.
He's not even working? Then why are you trying to destroy this family, Claire? Phil asked exasperatingly.
Claire was flabbergasted and finally turned to him. With a pitiful face, she said, "But this is the first time he's let me handle a big job."
I don't want to let him down. What is he? Grandpa?
Alex muttered to herself as her mother's desperation to prove herself to Ed had struck a familiar chord in her, as it had a clear similarity to the times her mother tried to make their grandfather acknowledge her work.
Maybe because he is emotionally unavailable too. She muttered again before checking her phone as she got a text message from Jenna. He's at a movie studio? Why? Haley asked. Is it the Twilight movie? No. It's another movie studio.
Marvel Martel, something like that. Claire replied casually before returning to look at the laptop screen.
Mom. He's not, resting again. I need to go there. Haley tried to convince her mother, but Luke interrupted by shouting, Iron Man.
He ran to his mother and grabbed her arm, startling the woman.
I want his autograph. What? Luke, stop that. Claire said as Luke kept shaking her arm. Whose autograph? Phil asked. Iron Man. Luke said while turning to his dad. I'll text him.
Haley's eyes lit up and she got to work quickly. Ed noted Luke's request and he told RDJ about it later on, getting Luke a personalized autograph poster of Iron Man. The next day came, and after relentless badgering from Luke since early in the morning, Phil gave up and agreed to bring the boy to the hotel to pick up the poster.
He definitely didn't go there because he wanted to play at the hotel.
His intention was totally pure, he lied to himself.
Chapter 95, Not Going Home. Edward POV.
Next morning, I woke up at 8 a.m. sharp after having a 4-hour sleep. Despite that, my mind was refreshed as I managed to get a full, interrupted REM sleep and I felt better than ever. After having my morning coffee, I opened my laptop before even having breakfast and started working. However, there were a few distractions that prevented me from putting my 100% focus on the work, such as a text message from a certain father figure that said he was coming over to the hotel to play.
But why?
I was confused when I saw the text. However, Phil was already halfway to the hotel when I noticed the text. I sighed and put the phone back down, but at the moment it touched the desk, another text message chimed in. I grabbed it back and read the text from Haley next, Abby and I are coming too. Haley, don't let Dad come into your room. Haley, chase him away. Haley, if it's too late, then text me before I go up there. Haley, Abby and I want to use the hot tub. We even brought our bikinis. General POV, an hour before. Not going to focus on the MC as he's only working from his room. Not much to write about there, lol. Delete this while you edit Cosme. Luke. Do you want to pick up the poster now? Phil shouted from the dining table after he ended his call. What poster? Luke asked in confusion, already forgotten about yesterday's affairs when he woke up the next morning. Phil was taken aback and he said carefully, the Iron Man poster? Oh. Luke's eyes lit up immediately. That. Yes, I want to go there now. Great. Go change your clothes, and we will go there. Phil said as he ruffled his son's hair and patted his shoulder before Luke moved away. Claire was in disbelief and she said, Why are you going there now? And what did Ted say? Huh? Phil turned to Claire before remembering his call yesterday. Oh, that. He said he's fixing the light features at his house today, and wants me to. His eyes fluttered as he thought of an excuse before saying, "Lend him my jeans overall?"
Why are you asking me?
Claire became confused by Phil's reply, but she didn't make much of it.
Phil's commentary. Okay. Actually, the first part is true. Ted is finishing the work at his house. They are going to have their power back this morning.
Phil said squirrely and continually checked out his behind to make sure no one else was listening to it.
Here's the thing. When Ted and I followed the electrical line last night. Flashback. God, this place is a dump.
Ted said as he climbed into the attic, with Phil helping him to hold the flashlight from behind him.
How long has it been since you guys came out here?
Phil asked as Ted stepped on the attic floor carefully to avoid harmful hazards.
Like in 2 years? Ted said before moving a pretty big box out of the way to get to the router.
Phil scrunched his eyebrow and said, "You guys shouldn't keep that up here. It'll be difficult to reset it."
I know. Ted agreed and said, "Miranda asked me to put it there before. Now, I will bring it back down."
He ripped the router wire out and took off the device from the walls there. Phil was looking around to see a bunch of old instrument cases, a few old chairs, and even a creepy-looking ceramic girl doll sitting inside a glass case. He shuddered as he locked eyes with the doll and asked, "What's that?"
"Oh, that's Annabelle. Believe it or not, Ed used to sleep with it."
"Ed did?"
Phil asked in confusion. "But he's so manly," he blurted out.
Ted laughed a bit and said, "Not after he knows what it is." He loved the doll while he was a toddler, but changed his interest in instruments after that. Ted said before looking longingly at the doll.
"Really?" Phil asked in disbelief.
With sadness in his tone, Ted said, "More like, Miranda took all of his toys and replaced it with music stuff to
cultivate his interest in music."
Now that I think about it, she had thrown away most of his toys.
"I don't know that she kept Annabelle here." Phil empathized with Ted before he said creepily, "Maybe she did throw it out, and it came crawling back." Ted also shuddered and stepped away from the doll quickly.
He turned to Phil and said with gritted teeth, "Dude, I sleep in the same house with this.
Or, do you want me to give it to your daughters? You have 2 of them, right?"
Phil shuddered at the thought of the doll living in his house and said, "And no. My girls don't play with dolls anymore."
"You can keep it, as a memoir. But promise me something."
Phil suddenly turned solemn, making Ted swallow his saliva.
"What is it?"
Ted asked.
"Don't, ever, let Claire know that you have a creepy girl doll in your attic." "Why? Will she have a heart attack?" Ted asked in concern. "No. She will love it."
Phil said and was checking around the boxes, when suddenly a paper bag fell down from the gaps of the boxes. Unlike the other stuff there that was old and dusty, the paper bag looked relatively new. Ted and Phil were both curious, and they stood around the fallen paper bag. Phil picked it up and his eyes widened as he saw what's inside it.
This. Flashback ends.
So, to make sure Ed didn't suspect anything, Ted asked me to go bring him back, so that we could ask him if he knew anything about what's inside the paper bag. Phil said solemnly before pausing for a bit and smiled.
"And maybe jump in the hotel pool for a little bit." Commentary ends. Luke. Make sure to pack your swimwear. Phil shouted to Luke before turning to his daughter and asked, "Alex, you want to come?"
With a pen wedged behind her ear, Alex looked up from behind the book she was reading and said, "And do what?
Wasting my time? And then let Sanjay Patel bested me at the final exam? No thank you. I'd rather be studying." Phil Haley. What about you?
Haley, who was texting while sitting on a couch nearby, widened her eyes as she got an idea. She turned to her dad and said, "No, Dad.
I'm going out with Abby." At 7 in the morning? Claire said in suspicion.
Haley's eyes shook and she replied with a stutter, "We were going hiking."
"Oh." Claire exclaimed in realization and said, "Be sure not to go somewhere dangerous." "You know what, I never knew you like hiking. Maybe we can go up a hill together sometimes." Are you going there with only Abby? Do you want me to come with you? Haley was horrified by what she had done and said hurriedly, "No need, Mom. Madame Desiree is bringing us there. And I need to go now. Bye."
She ran away to the front door and got out of the house quickly before Claire could try to bond with her again.
I thought we could do something together,"
Claire said in a pitiful voice as she saw Haley left. "I'm just concerned she's going hiking with high-heel shoes,"
Phil said.
Claire thought for a bit and then shrugged before walking away to make breakfast for the rest of her family.
Drive, drive, drive," Haley ordered Abby as they saw her dad's car pulled out of the driveway.
Abby's blue Dodger car followed behind Phil's Prius stealthily as he drove it to the five-star hotel in West Hollywood. It wasn't an easy road for the girls to go there alone, therefore they had no choice but to follow Phil.
"Are you sure he'll let us in? He's going there to work?" Abby asked in concern as she followed Phil's car.
Haley rolled her eyes and said, "I'm sure. No one's going to a hotel to work.
That's a myth.
People go to a hotel to play, or to have an affair.
Sometime maybe both."
Abby nodded as if she learned something new, not knowing that she was slowly being corrupted by her popular friend. However, as Abby followed Phil, there was a minivan behind her car, following her without her knowing about it.
"I knew it. She's not going hiking,"
Claire said angrily as she followed Haley and Abby's car. As her daughter was being dodgy, Claire's inner mama bear personality was awakened to protect her daughter from making terrible mistakes, especially as Haley was in her early adolescence.
Edward POV. "Now, what the F***ck should I do?"
I muttered as I thought about the situation. After thinking for a while, I sighed and decided to not do anything about it and turn my focus back on my job instead. If they want to play, then let them play.
If the distractions are too much, then I will kick them out. I too muttered before I got a call from Mrs. Henderson, snapping me out of my focus again.
I groaned and wiped my face in frustration using my palm before picking up the call.
"Hi Mrs. Gorgeous. How may I help you today?"
I said with a grin after getting back into my classroom joker personality as I talked to her.
"Mr. Newgate. There's some new development about the decathlon that I need to brief you about. Am I disturbing you right now?" I was confused because the woman could guess my feelings accurately even though we were talking through the phone.
But my experience with her told me that it was nothing as she was an expert on this matter since I got into middle school 3 years before.
"A little bit. But I can talk," I replied honestly. "Don't worry. I'll be quick." A Caltech University dean, Professor Gabelhauser, was interested in the decathlon competition dash. I assume they weren't coming for fun, right? "Yes. They are coming for you," Mr. Henderson said with a calm voice.
"You know, if your voice was a level deeper, like, deep voice, they are coming for you."
"Normal voice, then, I will be shaking in my boots." I laughed a bit but there wasn't a reaction from the teacher. I coughed twice and asked, "Why are they interested in me exactly?" "Publicity, Mr. Newgate." "Publicity."
The interest in STEM studies in the younger generation has been declining. They figured to use your participation in the competition to boost the students' interest in applying for these fields.
"Ah. I understand that. But that wasn't much news for you to call me." "Yes. That's only a bit of a hassle, but it wasn't a bad thing."
"The bad thing is Dryden Academy is entering the competition."
"How is that possible? I thought the finalists had already been decided in their district?" I asked with surprise.
They sponsored a competition today, claiming the previous competition was invalid as they weren't invited to be in the competition. The bribed judges agreed to it and agreed to their claims. They beat up Ryden Middle School today, and they had taken over their place as a finalist in the competition.
All in a span of a day? And on the weekend nonetheless? I asked in disbelief. Yes. They have deep pockets after all.
I processed the information for a while and said, "So they bribed the judges for the competitions?"
"No. They compete fairly.
They only bribed the judges to allow them to enter the competition.
I was confused. Why? I could swear I heard Mrs. Henderson sighed. She said, because of you, of course. Excuse me? After some explanation, I finally understood the current situation.
Dryden High School was an elite, prestigious private school while the other schools competing were from a public school. They showed no interest in the competition for years, but to suddenly force themselves to enter the competition made me think there were some weird conspiracies afoot. It wasn't so much because of me, but because of the interest the public have on me right now. If they beat my school in the competition, then the academy's prestige will be raised upward, giving them only advantages. They also mark you as a must-have student to enter their high school when you graduate next year.
So they want to create an impression in your mind when you lose to them. They are very presumptuous, aren't they? They base all of their plans for when they win. I said with disinterest.
Mrs. Henderson said, yes.
But, when they lose, don't you think their face will be priceless?
I grinned evilly as I have the same thought as the teacher. You sure do know how to motivate me, teach.
I'll give you additional materials. Study them all today. Mrs. Henderson said before an email popped out at my laptop screen.
Efficient as always.
Okay, Mrs. I will memorize it before I go to school tomorrow.
After setting the discussions, I added, also, there's something I need to talk about.
She listened for a while and asked, are you sure?
Positive.
I will contact your father.
After he gave his consent, only then I can proceed with the test.
Give me some time. I will talk to my dad about it first.
Okay.
Skipping grades is not necessarily a good thing.
But to be honest, I don't think there's much for you to learn in high school next year. After you talk to your dad, I need to get the principal's authorization to do this.
It'll take a few days. I finally ended the call after talking for a while.
Although I have my concerns that Dad wouldn't let me skip grades, I feel that I could do a lot more if I focus all of my time with work and creating instead. I'm sure he will understand if I explain it to him properly.
General POV.
As Phil drove to the main entrance, he and Luke walked to the reception desk and said, "Hi. We're looking for Edward Newgate's room." The receptionist was a bit irritated and said, "Paparazzis couldn't enter the hotel, and there's no one registered using that name here. Please leave the premises before we call security." Phil was alarmed and he said hurriedly, "Wait.
I'm not a reporter. I'm his neighbor."
"Yes.
Neighbor. Adopted father.
Friend from school," which is clearly a blatant lie as she was almost 30 years old, his dog walker, milk delivery man, and a lot more acquaintances had come by and asked to meet him today. She said using a mean tone.
However, I'll say it again.
There's no one with the name Edward Newgate registered at our hotel today. The receptionist said sternly. 2 bodyguards approached the reception desk, making Phil feel threatened. Suddenly, the desk phone rang. The receptionist picked it up and listened to the voice on the other side for a while. She stopped the security by putting her index finger to them, making the 2 burly men confused. Suddenly, the receptionist smiled and said, "You must be the Dunphys.
Mr. Luther is expecting you. Please follow the concierge, and she will lead you to his suite."
Phil and Luke breathed in relief before following the staff member from behind. A few minutes later, 2 young girls came to the reception desk and said, "Hi. We're looking at Edward Newgate's room."
"I'm Haley Dunphy and this is Abby M.
The receptionist was irritated at first, but as she heard Dunphy's name, her face changed to radiate kindness. She stopped Haley before she could finish her words as Edward had notified the hotel before about the girls and said, "I will arrange someone to escort you."
Your father had already gone to the room.
Wait. We're not going there yet if my dad is there.
See, can you bring us there when he's gone?
Haley asked meekly. The receptionist was confused, and she looked at the 2 girls properly before finding out that both girls were incredibly gorgeous.
She nodded in understanding and said, "Okay.
I'll notify you when he's gone."
"Wonderful,"
Abby said while clasping her hand in excitement. Haley and Abby brightened up before the staff member arranged for them to wait at the lounge. They were given the best treatment by the hotel's staff and couldn't wait to enjoy their evening at the hotel. However, as Haley and Abby were escorted to the lounge, the staff members stopped an irate-looking white woman who was following the girls suspiciously from behind.
"Ma'am, do you have an appointment to enter the hotel?" "No. But that's my daughter. I need to talk to her."
The staff looked at the hotel receptionist, but she shook her head at them as Edward had specified that only 4 people were coming in to see him today. They grabbed Claire and dragged her out from the hotel room without giving her a chance to explain herself to the hotel staff. "Haley!" Claire yelled as she tried to stop the staff member from throwing her out. Inside the lounge, Haley sipped her iced tea without any care in the world, and didn't even pay attention to her surroundings. Abby heard someone calling her friend, but as she looked around, she didn't see any familiar faces, therefore she thought it was just someone with the same name.
Edward POV.
While I was working, Phil and Luke knocked on the suite door, distracting me from my work. I walked to the door and opened it, only for Luke to immediately hug me as he saw me.
"Wait. Why? What happened?" I asked in confusion.
"Thank you for the poster." Luke released me and ran to the room to search for the poster himself before I could invite him in. I laughed and I turned to Phil, who was trying to search for something inside the room.
"Come on in."
I invited him inside without paying attention to what he was doing. Phil walked to the pantry while I sat down on the chair, trying to search for something.
"Ed, do you want to come play with us?" he asked. "No thanks,"
I said as I kept an eye on him to find out what he was doing. After he checked the bar and found out there wasn't any alcohol there, his face was a bit relieved.
"Oh. He thought I was drinking?"
Wait. Phil isn't a suspicious guy. It must be Claire who thought I was trying to get away with something as I stayed here alone. I thought. Luckily I am not an amateur and had the staff member clean up the bar before he came. "You know, we can have some brownies, or some special brownies," Phil said suddenly before turning to study my face, but there wasn't any change in my expression. No guilt, no fear, not even confusion.
"There's brownies?" I asked with an innocent face.
Phil breathed in relief again and wanted to ask me something, but Luke suddenly walked into the room wearing an Iron Man helmet and a black rubber baton on his other hand.
"This is so cool!" Luke exclaimed. "Did you get this for me too? I wonder if it can withstand being hit like the true Iron Man." Jarvis, initiate the batting
test. "Zazizu swish," he said before moving his limbs as he made robot sound with his mouth. He brought the baton perpendicular to his head, wanting to hit his own head with the bat to test the helmet. I was horrified as I saw the helmet and stood up immediately. I tried to calm him down like Chris Pratt calming down the Velociraptor and said, "Luke,
don't move."
"Why?" Luke said before putting one hand on the helmet, but still not releasing the bat.
"Aren't you curious?"
I gulped my saliva in fear and said, "Luke.
No. Don't."
That's the original prop from the set of Iron Man 2, signed by RDJ himself. It is priceless.
"Oh. Then, that means it's free, right?" Luke said, increasing my fear.
"Luke, no." Phil shouted as Luke tried to hit his own head. I swooped in hurriedly to save the helmet, but that wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha System in Modern Family World.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.